Captain Zektar stared at his scanner screen with 4 yellow eyes. The numbers made no sense. His ship had been patrolling the dead zone for 3 years, and nothing ever happened here. Nothing ever moved in this empty part of space. The humans were gone. Everyone knew that. But something was moving now. "Sir," his second officer called out. "The scanner shows a large object coming toward us. It's moving fast." Zektar's crystalline body clicked as he turned. His people, the Velkari, were made of living crystal that grew over metal bones. When they were nervous, they made clicking sounds. Right now, Zektar was clicking a lot. "How large?" he asked. "Very large, sir. Maybe 3 times bigger than our ship." "And sir, the scanner says it's made of metal we don't know." Zektar felt cold fear run through his crystal skin. Unknown metal meant unknown technology. Unknown technology meant danger. His people had ruled this part of space for 400 years because they knew everything about everyone. They studied every ship, every weapon, every piece of metal that other races used. "Can you tell what race built it?" Zektar asked. The second officer was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that made Zektar's crystal body turn white with shock. "Sir, the computer says... It says the ship is human." Zektar almost fell from his command chair. "That's impossible. Run the scan again. I've run it 5 times, sir. The metal matches old human ship designs. But, sir, this ship is huge. Much bigger than any human ship we ever saw." Zektar's mind raced. Humans had been gone for 847 years. Their sun had died, taking their whole world with it. The Galactic Council had marked their space as dead. No one went there anymore. There was nothing left. "Show me the ship," Zektar ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made everyone on the bridge go silent. The ship was massive and dark. Its hull was covered in scars from battles that must have happened long ago. Strange blue lights ran along its sides like veins. It looked old, but also somehow alive. "Sir," another officer called out. "It's sending us a message." "What kind of message?" It's in the old human language, English. The computer is translating it now." The voice that came through the speakers was calm and human. It sounded like a man, but there was something different about it. Something that made Zektar's crystal skin crawl. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the UHS Constellation. We are returning to known space after a long journey. Please identify yourself." Zektar's hands shook as he reached for the communication controls. This had to be some kind of trick. Maybe another race was pretending to be human. But why would they do that? Humans were not feared. They were barely remembered. "This is Captain Zektar of the Velkari patrol ship Crystal Wing. Unknown vessel. You claim to be human." "This is impossible. The human race died 8 centuries ago." There was a pause. Then the human voice came back, and this time Zektar could hear something like sadness in it. "Reports of our death have been greatly exaggerated, Captain. We've been away for a while. Things have changed. We have changed." Zektar looked at his crew. They all stared back at him with wide, frightened eyes. This was bigger than a simple patrol mission. This was something that would shake the entire galaxy. "Human, ship Constellation, you will hold your position. Do not move closer. I am calling the Galactic Council. We understand your concern, Captain, but we're not here to cause trouble. We just want to talk." Zektar's fingers flew over his controls as he sent an emergency message to the Council. The message was simple, but terrifying. "Humans have returned. Send help immediately." On the screen, the massive human ship just waited. It didn't move closer, but it didn't leave either. It just hung there in space like a dark mountain, covered in battle scars and glowing with those strange blue lights. Inside the human ship, Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and looked at the alien vessel on his own screen. The Velkari ship was small and pretty, made of clear crystal that caught starlight. It looked fragile compared to the Constellation. "Sir," his science officer said, "their ship uses the same technology we remember from 800 years ago. They haven't advanced much." Jake nodded slowly. Dr. Lisa Carter was right, as always. The galaxy had stayed almost the same while humanity had been forced to grow and change in ways no one could imagine. "How many people are awake on our ship now?" Jake asked. "About 500, sir. The others are still sleeping in the cold chambers. Should we wake more?" Not yet. Let's see how this first contact goes. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew didn't look completely human anymore. Their eyes were too bright, their movements too quick. 8 centuries of evolution and adaptation had changed them. They were still human, but they were also something more. Lieutenant Sam Torres looked up from his communication station. "Sir, I'm picking up more signals. The Velkari captain sent a message to something called the Galactic Council. They're scared." "They should be," said Commander Alex Blake from his position at the weapons station. "They have no idea what we've become." Jake raised his hand for silence. "Easy, Alex. We're not here for revenge. We're here to find our place in this galaxy. Again." "After what they did to us?" Alex's voice was hard. "They destroyed our world, Jake. They killed billions of our people." "They thought they killed all of us," Jake said quietly. "But we survived. We learned. We grew stronger. Now we're back, and we have choices to make." On the screen, more ships were appearing. The Galactic Council was sending a fleet. Jake counted 12 ships of different designs. Some looked like crystal sculptures, others like metal insects, and a few looked like they were made of flowing water. "Sir," Dr. Carter said, "I'm scanning their ships. Their technology is still based on the old principles. Chemical rockets, laser weapons, basic energy shields. They're like children playing with toys." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Then we need to be very careful not to break their toys. Or them." The communication system crackled too. Life again. This time it wasn't Captain Zektar speaking. It was a new voice, deeper and more commanding. "Unknown vessel claiming to be human. This is Admiral Velquan of the Galactic Council Fleet. You will prepare to be boarded and inspected. Your claims are impossible, and we will discover the truth." Jake looked at his crew. They all looked back at him, waiting for orders. He could feel their anger, their desire for justice after so many centuries, but he also felt their trust in him to make the right choice. "Open a channel," Jake said quietly. "Channel open, sir." Jake's voice went out across space to the gathering. "Fleet of alien ships." When he spoke, his words would change everything. "Admiral Velquan, this is Captain Jake Morrison. We are human and we have returned. We've been gone a long time, but we never forgot what was taken from us. We never forgot who took it." The silence that followed was complete. In that silence, the galaxy held its breath and waited to see what humanity had become in the dark between the stars. Admiral Velquan's massive crystalline form towered over his command center. His body was older and larger than Captain Zektar's, with deep blue crystal formations that marked his high rank. Right now, those crystals were flashing angry red. "Play the message again," he commanded. The human's voice filled the bridge once more. "We never forgot what was taken from us. We never forgot who took it." Velquan's 4 arms gestured sharply at his officers. "Impossible. The humans died when their star collapsed. We have records. We have proof." His intelligence officer, a smaller Velkari with green crystal growths, stepped forward carefully. "Sir, perhaps we should check the old files, the classified ones from 8 centuries ago." Velquan turned all 4 eyes on the officer. "What classified files?" "The files about Operation Stellar Wind, sir. The ones that only council members can access." Velquan felt something cold move through his crystal body. He had forgotten about those files. Most people had. Operation Stellar Wind was supposed to stay buried forever. "Get me those files. Now." While the Admiral searched through ancient secrets, Jake Morrison walked through the halls of his ship. The constellation was huge inside, with corridors that stretched for miles. Most of the ship was still dark and cold, waiting for its sleeping passengers to wake up. Jake stopped at a viewing window and looked out at the alien fleet. 12 ships hung in space around them, but they kept their distance. They were afraid, and they should be. If they only knew what the constellation could do. "Captain," a voice said behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Lisa Carter walking toward him. She moved differently than humans used to move. Her steps were too light, too quick. 8 centuries of genetic adaptation had changed all of them. "Doctor, are you ready to tell them our story?" Lisa nodded. "I've prepared the historical files. But Jake, are you sure we should tell them everything? About what really happened to Earth? About what we found in the dark?" Jake was quiet for a moment. They'll find out eventually. Better they hear it from us. Lisa touched a control pad on the wall. A hologram appeared between them, showing images from long ago. Earth as it used to be, blue and green and beautiful. It started 850 years ago, Lisa said softly. Our scientists noticed something wrong with the sun. It was aging too fast, burning too hot. We had maybe 50 years before it would expand and destroy everything. The hologram changed, showing frantic activity on Earth. Ships being built, people saying goodbye, children being put into cold sleep chambers. The government made a hard choice. They couldn't save everyone. So they built 7 ships, each one carrying 50,000 people in cold sleep. The Constellation was the largest. Jake remembered the stories his grandfather had told him, how families were torn apart, how people fought for spots on the ships, how billions were left behind to die. My great-grandfather, General Ryan Murphy, commanded the Constellation. Dr. Emma Foster designed the cold sleep systems. Captain Tony Richards planned our route through space. The hologram showed the 7 ships leaving Earth just as the sun began to swell. The Constellation went in a different direction from the others, heading not just out of the solar system, but out of the galaxy itself. We traveled for 300 years before we found anything, Lisa continued. Just empty space, dead stars, floating rocks. But then we found something incredible. The image changed to show massive structures floating in the void between galaxies. They looked like cities made of light and metal, but they were clearly ancient and empty. The architect ruins, a civilization that existed millions of years ago. They had technology we couldn't understand, machines that worked with thought instead of tools, ships that could move through space and time like swimming through water. Jake picked up the story. Our people studied the ruins for 200 years. Slowly, we learned. We changed. The technology didn't just give us new tools. It changed our bodies, our minds, our very souls. Lisa nodded. We became something more than human, but still human. We learned to exist partially outside normal space. We developed healing abilities that work on any living thing. We gained knowledge that spans galaxies. And we learned the truth about what happened to Earth, Jake said, his voice hard. The hologram changed again, showing sensor readings and data files. Lisa's expression grew dark. Earth's sun didn't die naturally. Someone killed it. We found traces of stellar manipulation technology in the ruins of our system. The same technology the architects had banned because it was too dangerous. Jake's hands clenched into fists. Someone used a weapon to age our sun hundreds of years in just a few decades. Someone committed genocide against our entire race. Lisa touched another control. New images appeared, showing the 3 main alien races of the galaxy: the crystal Velkari, the insect-like Zephyrians, and the aquatic Nethara. The weapon signatures match technology from all 3 races. They worked together to destroy us. But why? Jake asked, even though he knew the answer. Because we were growing too fast, learning too quickly. In just a few hundred years, humans had gone from primitive tribes to space travel. They were afraid of what we might become. Jake turned away from the hologram and looked back out at the alien fleet. So they tried to kill us all, but they failed. Lisa smiled, and it was not a nice smile. They failed completely. Instead of destroying humanity, they forced us to evolve beyond anything they could imagine. We're not the same species that left Earth 8 centuries ago. Should we show them? Jake asked. Show them what? What we've become. What we can do, Lisa thought for a moment. Not everything. Not yet. But maybe enough to make them understand that threatening us was a mistake. Jake touched his communication device. Sam, are you ready to send our historical files to the alien fleet? Lieutenant Sam Torres's voice came back immediately. Ready, sir? Should I include the files about the other ships? Jake paused. The other 6 human ships had scattered across the universe. Some had found other alien civilizations. Some had built new worlds. One had simply vanished into dimensions beyond normal space. All of them had survived and grown strong. Not yet. Let them digest this first. Sending files now, sir. On Admiral Velquan's ship, Alarms began ringing as massive amounts of data flooded their computers. The Admiral stared at his screens as impossible information scrolled past. "Sir," his communication officer said, "they're sending us everything. Historical records, genetic data, technology specifications. There's too much to process." Velquan saw images of Earth's destruction, records of the human exodus, and worst of all, evidence of the stellar weapon that had killed their son. "Sir," another officer called out, panic in his voice, "I found something in our own classified files. Operation Stellar Wind. It's exactly what the humans are showing us." Velquan felt his crystal body begin to crack with stress. The truth was there in their own records. 850 years ago, the Galactic Council had voted to destroy humanity before they became too powerful. They had used the forbidden stellar weapon to murder an entire race, except they hadn't succeeded. "Sir," the communication officer said, "the human ship is sending another message." Jake Morrison's voice filled the bridge again, but this time it was different, calmer, more dangerous. "Admiral Velquan, we've sent you our history. We know you're checking your own records now. You'll find they match perfectly. Your people, working with the Zephyrians and the Nithara, tried to commit genocide against humanity 850 years ago." Velquan's crystals flashed from red to white to red again. "But you failed," Jake continued. "Instead of destroying us, you forced us to grow stronger than you ever imagined. We've spent 8 centuries learning from the ruins of civilizations that ruled the universe before your races even existed. We've become something new." The Admiral looked at his weapons officer. "Can we destroy their ship?" The weapons officer, a young Velkari with bright yellow crystals, shook his head. "Sir, I can't get a target lock. Every time I try to scan their ship, my instruments fail. It's like they're not completely there." "What do you mean, not completely?" "There? I mean, they seem to exist partially outside normal space, sir. Our weapons are designed to hit things that exist in normal space." Admiral Velquan realized that he was facing something far more dangerous than he had imagined. The humans hadn't just survived. They had evolved beyond the galaxy's ability to understand or fight them, and they had every reason to want revenge. Admiral Velquan made the worst decision of his very long life. He decided to board the human ship. "Prepare a boarding team," he commanded. "Full battle gear. We're going to inspect this vessel and find out what we're really dealing with." His officers looked at each other with worry. The youngest one, a Velkari named Texol with bright blue crystals, spoke up carefully. "Sir, maybe we should wait for orders from the Council. This seems very dangerous." Velquan's crystals flashed angry red. "I've been fighting space pirates and rebels for 400 years. I'm not afraid of some humans in an old ship." He had no idea how wrong he was. An hour later, Admiral Velquan's shuttle approached the human ship. With him were 12 of his best soldiers, all armed with the latest Velkari weapons. They expected to find a normal ship with normal people who could be easily controlled. Instead, they found something impossible. The Constellation's docking bay was enormous, bigger than some space stations. But that wasn't the strange part. The strange part was how it seemed to exist in several different dimensions at once. "Sir," one of his soldiers whispered, "the walls keep moving, but they're not really moving." Velquan saw what the soldier meant. The metal walls seemed solid, but sometimes he could see through them to other parts of the ship. Sometimes the ceiling seemed to stretch up forever. Sometimes the floor felt like it was made of light instead of metal. "Stay close," Velquan ordered. "Don't touch anything." They walked deeper into the ship, following corridors that shouldn't have been able to fit inside the hull they had seen from outside. The air tasted strange, like it was somehow alive. Strange blue lights ran along the walls like veins carrying electric blood. Finally, they reached what looked like a command center. It was a large room with huge windows showing space outside. But the stars looked different through these windows, like they were seeing them from several places at once. "Welcome aboard the Constellation," said a human voice. Velquan spun around and saw 4 humans standing near the center of the room. They had appeared without making any sound, without any doors opening. They were just suddenly there. The humans looked mostly normal, but something was wrong with them. Their eyes were too bright, almost glowing. When they moved, they seemed to blur slightly, like they were moving through water instead of air. I am Captain Jake Morrison, the tallest human said. This is Dr. Lisa Carter, Lieutenant Sam Torres, and Commander Alex Blake. Velquan raised his weapon, and his soldiers did the same. You will surrender this vessel for inspection, by order of the Galactic Council. Jake Morrison smiled, and it was not a human smile. It was something else, something that made Velquan's crystal skin crawl with fear. Admiral, you're holding weapons that won't work on this ship. Would you like me to demonstrate? Before Velquan could answer, all 12 weapons simply stopped working. Not broken, not damaged. They just became pieces of metal and plastic that no longer remembered how to be weapons. How did you do that? Velquan demanded. Dr. Lisa Carter stepped forward. She was a small human woman with dark hair and those same glowing eyes. We've learned to exist partially outside your reality, Admiral. Your technology works in 3 dimensions. We've learned to step sideways into dimensions your science doesn't even know exist. Impossible, Velquan said, but his voice shook. Lieutenant Sam Torres spoke up. He was young-looking with light brown skin and a gentle voice. Admiral, would you like to see our medical bay? One of your soldiers was injured in a training accident last week. A broken crystal formation in his left arm. We could fix that for you. Velquan felt his fear turn to terror. There was no way the humans could know about Soldier Kextar's injury. It had happened on a completely different ship, and the medical records were classified. How do you know about that? He whispered. We know many things, Sam said kindly. When you exist in multiple dimensions at once, information flows differently. We can see the quantum echoes of events across space and time. Commander Alex Blake had been silent until now. He was a tall human with dark hair and angry eyes. Admiral, your people have been planning another attack on us. We know about the weapons hidden on your ship. We know about the secret message you sent to the Council asking for the old stellar weapon. Velquan's crystal body went completely white. We were just being careful. Careful? Alex's voice was like ice. You tried to commit genocide once. Now you want to try again? Jake raised his hand to calm Alex down. Easy. Let's show our guests what we found during our long journey. The room around them suddenly changed. They were still on the ship, but now they seemed to be floating in space, surrounded by the ruins of the ancient architect civilization. These structures are millions of years old, Dr. Carter explained, built by beings who learned to transcend physical reality. They left behind technology and knowledge that took us centuries to understand. The images showed massive cities floating in the void, machines that bent space and time, and creatures of pure energy that danced between the stars. We learned from them, Jake said. We became students of the universe itself, and we learned something very important about the weapon you used to destroy our sun. The scene changed again, showing the stellar weapon in horrible detail. It was a machine the size of a small moon, designed to age stars by millions of years, in just a few decades. The architects banned this technology, Lisa said quietly. They called it the reality killer because it doesn't just destroy planets or stars, it damages the fabric of space and time itself. Admiral Velquan was shaking. Now. We didn't know. The Council told us it was just a weapon. The Council lied to you, Alex said angrily. Just like they lied to everyone else. They wanted humanity dead and they didn't care what it cost. Sam Torres stepped closer to Velquan. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but terrifying. Admiral, we need you to understand something. We're not the same humans who left Earth 8 centuries ago. We've evolved. We've learned. We've become something that your galaxy has never seen before. To demonstrate, Sam simply stepped sideways and vanished. Then he reappeared behind Velquan, having somehow moved through solid matter. We can exist in multiple dimensions, Sam explained. We can heal any injury, cure any disease. We can travel faster than light without ships. We can manipulate matter at the quantum level. And yes, we can defend ourselves against any weapon your galaxy can build. Dr. Carter approached one of the Velkari soldiers, the one with the broken crystal arm. May I? She asked politely. The soldier looked at Admiral Velquan, who nodded nervously. Lisa placed her hands near the soldier's injury. Her hands began to glow with soft blue light. The broken crystal formation in the soldier's arm began to heal, growing back together stronger than before. "This is impossible," Velquan whispered. "This is evolution," Jake said. "This is what happens when you force a species to adapt or die. We chose to adapt." Commander Blake walked to the large windows. Through them, Velquan could see the Galactic Council fleet waiting outside. "Your ships are primitive," Alex said bluntly. "Your weapons are toys. Your technology is based on principles we mastered centuries ago. If we wanted to destroy your fleet, we could do it without them ever knowing what hit them." "Then why don't you?" Velquan asked. Jake Morrison turned to face the Admiral directly. His glowing eyes seemed to look right through him. "Because we're not you, Admiral. We don't destroy entire races because we're afraid of them. But that doesn't mean we're defenseless. And it doesn't mean we forgive." The room returned to normal, but Velquan felt like the universe had shifted around him. These humans were not the weak species his people had tried to exterminate. They were something far more dangerous and far more advanced. "What do you want?" Velquan asked quietly. "Justice," Alex said immediately. "Understanding," Lisa added. "Peace," Sam offered. Jake looked at all of them, then back at the Admiral. "We want the truth to be known. We want the galaxy to understand what really happened 800 years ago, and we want to make sure it never happens again." "And if we refuse?" Jake's smile was sad and terrible. "Admiral, you're thinking about this wrong. You're not in a position to refuse anything. You're standing on our ship, in our reality, surrounded by technology you can't comprehend. We could erase your entire fleet from existence, and the universe wouldn't even notice." He paused, letting that sink in. "But we won't. Because we're better than that. We're better than you were 8 centuries ago." Admiral Velquan realized that he was facing the consequences of his people's greatest crime. The humans had returned, and they had become something beyond his worst nightmares. But instead of revenge, they were offering something much more frightening. They were offering mercy. 3 days after Admiral Velquan's terrifying visit to the human ship, the Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from all 3 major races gathered on the neutral station called Unity Point, floating in empty space far from any home world. High Arbiter Velquan's superior, Elder Velthara, sat at the crystal table with 2 other leaders. Nest Prime. Zix Ara represented the Zephyrians, her insect-like body clicking nervously. Elder Nethsa of the aquatic Neth Ara floated in a water-filled suit, his tentacles moving in worried patterns. "The humans have returned," Elder Velthara said simply. "What do we do?" Nest Prime Zixara's 1,000-faceted eyes reflected the station's lights. "Impossible. We made sure. The stellar weapon destroyed their sun completely." "Apparently not completely enough." Elder Nethsa gurgled through his water suit. "Admiral Velquan's report is disturbing. These humans have capabilities we don't understand." Elder Velthara's ancient crystal body creaked as she leaned forward. "More disturbing is what they know. They have detailed records of Operation Stellar Wind. They know what we did." The 3 leaders sat in uncomfortable silence. 850 years ago, their predecessors had made a decision that haunted them to this day. Humanity had been advancing too quickly, learning too fast. In just a few centuries, they had gone from stone tools to space travel. The Council had decided that such rapid growth was dangerous, so they had used the forbidden weapon. "What exactly did the humans tell Admiral Velquan?" Nest Prime Zixara asked. Elder Velthara activated a holographic display. Images filled the air above the table, showing the human ship and the impossible technology it contained. They demonstrated abilities that shouldn't exist. Moving through solid matter, healing injuries instantly, existing in multiple dimensions at once. They claimed to have learned these abilities from ruins they found in deep space. "The Architect ruins," Elder Nethsa whispered. "We've heard legends of such places." According to the humans, they spent centuries studying these ruins. They evolved. They became something more than human. Nest Prime Zixara's mandibles clicked together anxiously. "How many of them survived?" "That's the terrifying part. The humans told Admiral Velquan that 7 ships escaped Earth. The Constellation is just one of them. The others are scattered across the universe, And they've all been evolving for 8 centuries. Elder Nethsa's tentacles writhed in his water suit. 7 ships, 50,000 humans each. That's 350,000 survivors. Who have been breeding and growing for 800 years, Elder Velthera added. There could be millions of them now. Nest Prime Zixara stood up suddenly, her insect legs clattering on the floor. We need to destroy them, now, before they become even more dangerous. With what? Elder Velthara asked bitterly. Admiral Velquan couldn't even get a weapons lock on their ship. Their technology is beyond anything we understand. Then we use the stellar weapon again, destroy whatever system they're hiding in. Elder Nethsa's voice was horrified. The stellar weapon was destroyed after Operation Stellar Wind. The Council voted to eliminate it forever. Nest Prime Zixara's eyes glittered with dangerous light. The weapon was hidden, not destroyed. My people have been maintaining it for 8 centuries, waiting for the day we might need it again. The other 2 leaders stared at her in shock. You've had the reality killer all this time? Elder Velthera demanded. Hidden in the deep ocean of our home world, fully functional and ready to use. Elder Nethsa's tentacles thrashed in anger. You violated the Council's direct orders. I saved the galaxy, Nest Prime Zixara shot back. And now we need that weapon more than ever. Meanwhile, on the Constellation, Jake Morrison stood in his private quarters, looking at displays that showed him the Council meeting in real time. The humans' advanced technology allowed them to monitor any communication in the galaxy. So they kept the weapon, he said quietly. Doctor. Lisa Carter materialized beside him, stepping through dimensions to reach his room instantly. Are you surprised? No. Disappointed, but not surprised. What do we do about it? Jake thought for a moment. We show them why keeping that weapon was a mistake. He touched a communication device. Sam, Alex, please come to my quarters. Within seconds, both men appeared. Sam Torres looked worried while Alex Blake looked angry. You heard the Council meeting? Jake asked. Every word, Alex said grimly. They want to use the stellar weapon again. They're going to try to destroy us, just like they destroyed Earth, Sam added. Jake nodded. Which means it's time to reveal the rest of our capabilities. How much of the rest? Lisa asked. Enough to make them understand that threatening us is pointless. Alex grinned, and it was not a nice expression. Should we show them the other ships? Not yet. But I think it's time they learned what the Constellation can really do. An hour later, the human ship began to change. Admiral Velquan, watching from his patrol vessel, could hardly believe what his sensors were telling him. Sir, his science officer said, the human ship is growing. What do you mean, growing? I mean it's getting bigger, sir. Much bigger. On the main screen, they watched as the Constellation expanded. New sections appeared from nowhere, as if the ship was unfolding from hidden dimensions. What had been a large vessel became something the size of a small moon. Sir, another officer called out, panic in his voice. I'm detecting thousands of life signs on that ship. There weren't that many before. They're waking people up, Velquan realized. They're bringing their crew out of cold sleep. But that wasn't the most terrifying part. The most terrifying part was what happened next. The Constellation split apart, not breaking apart, not exploding. It divided itself into 7 identical ships, each one the size the original had been. Sir, the communication officer whispered, we're receiving a message from all 7 ships at once. Jake Morrison's voice filled the bridge, but this time it was coming from 7 different sources simultaneously. Admiral Velquan, we thought you should see the full constellation. What you've been looking at for the past few days was just 1/7 of our ship. We've been keeping the other sections in dimensional storage. Velquan's crystal body began to crack with stress. Dimensional storage? We learned to fold space, Admiral. This ship can exist in 7 different dimensions at once. We can also travel between dimensions instantly, which means we can appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. One of the 7 ships suddenly vanished. A few seconds later, Velquan's sensors detected it appearing near the Galactic Council station, thousands of light years away. We know about your secret meeting, Admiral. We know about the stellar weapon hidden on the Nethera home world. We know about Nest Prime Zixara's plan to use it against us. The ship reappeared instantly, taking its place among the other 6. Here's what's going to happen, Jake continued. We're going to visit the Nethara homeworld. We're going to destroy that weapon before it can be used to hurt anyone else. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation with the Galactic Council about justice and consequences. Admiral Velquan found his voice. The Nethara homeworld is heavily defended. You can't just attack it. We're not going to attack it, Admiral. We're going to save it. The stellar weapon doesn't just destroy stars. It damages reality itself. If that weapon is ever used again, it could tear holes in space and time that would eventually destroy this entire galaxy. You're lying. Are we? Ask your scientists to study the quantum echoes from your own sun. You'll find damage that's still spreading 8 centuries later. The weapon you used to destroy Earth is slowly poisoning this entire region of space. Velquan felt a cold terror settle into his crystal heart. What do you mean? We mean that. Your people didn't just commit genocide, Admiral. You started a slow-motion catastrophe that will eventually kill every living thing in this galaxy, unless someone stops it. And you can stop it? Jake's voice was grim. We're the only ones who can. We learned how from the architects. It's one of the reasons we came back. The other reasons? Justice, Admiral. And to make sure that what happened to humanity never happens to anyone else. The 7 ships began to move, arranging themselves in a formation that hurt to look at. They seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, their positions shifting in ways that made no sense. We're leaving now, Jake announced. We have a weapon to destroy and a galaxy to save. Admiral Velquan, you might want to warn the Council that we're coming. Tell them that humanity remembers everything, forgives nothing, but still believes in justice. What does that mean? It means that we're going to fix what you broke, Admiral, all of it, starting with that weapon, and ending with the lies your people have been telling for 8 centuries. The 7 ships vanished simultaneously, leaving Admiral Velquan alone in space with the terrifying knowledge that humanity had returned not just for revenge, but for something much more dangerous. They had returned to save a galaxy that had tried to destroy them. The Nethara homeworld was a beautiful ocean planet covered in floating cities made of living coral. For thousands of years, the aquatic people had lived in peace beneath the waves, building a civilization that worked with nature instead of against it. They had no idea that hidden in their deepest ocean trench was a weapon that could destroy reality itself. Elder Nethsa floated in his private chamber, 3 miles beneath the surface, when his communication system suddenly activated. The image that appeared made his tentacles freeze with terror. 7 massive human ships hung in the water above his city, somehow existing underwater as easily as they had existed in space. Elder Nethsa, Jake Morrison's voice came through the water as clearly as if he were in the same room. We need to talk. How are you here? Nethsa gasped. How are your ships underwater? We've learned to exist in multiple environments simultaneously. Water, space, the void between dimensions. It's all the same to us now. Jake Morrison materialized inside Nethsa's chamber, somehow breathing water as easily as air. His human form was surrounded by a soft blue glow that made the water around him shimmer. We know about the stellar weapon hidden in the Mariana Trench of your world, Jake said calmly. We're here to destroy it. Nethsa's tentacles writhed in panic. You can't! That weapon is the only thing protecting this galaxy from threats we don't understand. The only threat to this galaxy is that weapon itself, Jake replied. Every time it's used, it tears holes in reality. The damage from destroying Earth is still spreading. In a few thousand years, it will reach this star system. In 10,000 years, it will destabilize the entire galactic core. You're lying. Jake extended his hand, and suddenly Nethsa could see what Jake was seeing. Images flowed through his mind showing the quantum damage spreading through space, like a slow cancer. Stars flickering strangely, planets developing impossible physics, entire star systems beginning to phase in and out of reality. This is what your weapon does, Jake said sadly. It doesn't just destroy targets. It damages the basic structure of the universe. Nethsa saw the truth in the images, and felt his hearts break. We didn't know. The Council told us it was just a very powerful weapon. The Council leaders knew. They just didn't care. They were so afraid of humanity that they were willing to risk destroying everything. What do you want from me? Help us destroy the weapon before Nest Prime Zixara can use it again. She's already given the order to activate it. Nethsa's tentacles went pale. She can't. The weapon takes days to charge, and it requires authorization from all 3 elder races. She's planning to use it without authorization. Our sensors show the weapon beginning to power up. Jake's expression grew grim. Elder Nethsa, if that weapon fires again, it won't just destroy whatever target she aims at. The accumulated quantum damage will cause a cascade failure. This entire region of space will collapse into a dimensional void. How many people would die? Everyone. Every living thing in 1,000 star systems. Billions of intelligent beings, reduced to nothing. Nethsa made the hardest decision of his long life. What do you need me to do? 20 minutes later, Nethsa led Jake and his team through the deepest trenches of his world. The pressure here would have crushed any normal being, but the humans moved through the water like they belonged there. Dr. Lisa Carter swam beside Nethsa, her human form somehow perfectly adapted to the crushing depths. How long has the weapon been hidden here? 850 years, Nethsa admitted. Since right after Operation Stellar Wind, the Council voted to destroy it, but Nest Prime Zixara convinced us to hide it instead. And you've been maintaining it all this time? My people believed we were protecting the galaxy. We thought if another threat like humanity emerged, we would need the weapon to defend ourselves. Lieutenant Sam Torres, swimming on Jake's other side, spoke up. Elder Nethsa, humanity was never a threat to anyone. We were just growing and learning. The Council destroyed us because they were afraid we would surpass them. I know that now, Nethsa said quietly. I've seen the real records. But 8 centuries ago, we were convinced that humanity would eventually conquer the galaxy. They reached the bottom of the trench where a massive structure sat on the ocean floor. It looked like a mechanical mountain covered in coral growth but still clearly artificial. Strange lights pulsed along its surface, and the water around it felt wrong somehow. There it is, Nethsa said. The reality killer. Commander Alex Blake examined the weapon with glowing eyes that could see across multiple dimensions. It's already charging. The quantum coils are building energy. If this thing fires, the dimensional damage will be catastrophic. Jake swam closer to the weapon. How do we shut it down? You need 3 authorization codes, Nethsa explained. 1 from each elder race. I can give you mine, but you'd need codes from the Velkari and Zephyrians too. We have those, Sam said quietly. How? Admiral Velquan gave us his code voluntarily, and we extracted the Zephyrian code from Nest Prime Zixara's ship computer. Nethsa stared at them. You hacked a Zephyrian hive mind computer? That's impossible, Doctor. Carter smiled. Elder, we've learned to think in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Hacking a 3-dimensional computer is simple for us. Jake approached the weapon's control panel. The interface was ancient but still functional. He input the 3 authorization codes, and the weapon's charging sequence began to slow, but then alarms started ringing throughout the ocean. What's happening? Nethsa demanded. Jake's expression darkened. Nest Prime Zixara is here. She's brought the entire Zephyrian fleet. Above them, through miles of water, they could see ships descending toward the ocean surface. The Zephyrian vessels looked like massive mechanical insects, their hulls gleaming with aggressive intent. She's going to try to stop us, Alex said. Let her try, Jake replied grimly. Nest Prime Zixara's voice echoed through the water, transmitted by powerful speakers on her ships. Humans, you will stop interfering with galactic security. That weapon is necessary for our protection. Jake swam upward, leaving his team to continue working on the weapon. He rose through the water until he was directly beneath the Zephyrian fleet. Nest Prime Zixara, he called out, his voice somehow carrying through miles of water to reach her ships. This weapon will destroy the galaxy if you use it. We're trying to save everyone, including you. Lies! Your species is a threat that must be eliminated. We will use the weapon to destroy you, just as we destroyed your home world. And that's where you made your mistake, Jake said. Suddenly, the water around the Zephyrian fleet began to change. It became thick and heavy, making it impossible for their ships to move. But that wasn't the terrifying part. The terrifying part was when 6 more human ships materialized in the water around them. Not just the other pieces of the constellation. These were different ships entirely, with different designs and different crews. But they all carried the same impossible technology, the same evolutionary advances. Meet the other ships, Jake announced. The UHS Discovery, returning from the Andromeda Galaxy. The UHS Endeavor, back from the edge of known space. The UHS Horizon, which spent 8 centuries exploring dimensions beyond normal reality. Nest Prime. Zixara's voice was now filled with terror. Impossible. We destroyed you all. You destroyed our home, Jake corrected. But you made us stronger. Each ship went in a different direction. Each ship learned different things. Each ship evolved in different ways. And now we're all back. The 7 human ships surrounded the Zephyrian fleet completely. Their combined presence warped reality around them, making the water itself seem to glow with impossible light. You have a choice, Jake continued. Stand down and let us destroy this weapon, or face the combined might of 7 human civilizations that have spent 8 centuries becoming something beyond your comprehension. Below them, at the weapon, Dr. Carter finished inputting the shutdown sequence. The reality killer's charging stopped, and its quantum coils began to power down safely. It's done, she announced. The weapon is deactivated permanently, but Jake wasn't finished with Nest Prime Zixara. Your people, working with the Velkari and Nethara, committed genocide against an entire species, he said. Billions of innocent humans died because you were afraid of what we might become. You were dangerous, Nest Prime Zixara protested. We were curious. We were explorers. We were builders and dreamers. And you murdered us for it. Jake's voice carried a sadness that made even the hostile Zephyrians feel shame. But we survived. And we learned, and we forgave. Forgave? Nest Prime Zixara was confused. We could destroy your entire fleet right now. We could conquer this galaxy and rule it as you once feared we would. But we won't. Because we're better than that. We're better than you were 8 centuries ago. The water around them began to clear as the human ships prepared to leave. We're establishing a new station at the edge of known space, Jake announced. New Geneva Station. Any species that wants to learn from us, trade with us, or simply coexist peacefully is welcome. Any species that tries to commit genocide again will find out what humanity has really become. The 7 human ships began to rise through the water, preparing to return to space.